How much should you pay upfront to your general contractor? This is a question I get asked all the time, and the real answer is as little as possible. Professional general contractors have what are called lines of credit, and they'll have a line of credit with a supply house. So let's just say that it's a lumber store, okay? So they're going to go to the lumber store and they're going to pick up the lumber and they're going to take it over to the house and they're going to finish the basement or whatever the case is. Well, typically they will have terms like a net 30 or 90, which means they've got 30 or 90 days for them to actually have to pay the lumberyard back. So they pick the stuff up, they don't have to pay for it, they do the work, and then as an owner, I come, I inspect it, I'm like, this looks great, and then I pay the contractor, and he gets money and signs a lien release, and then he pays the line of credit. Same with plumbing. I can go to a plumbing supply house if I have terms with them, which a good contractor should. I can get the toilets, I can get everything else, all the plumbing, all the materials, everything that I need on net terms if I'm a good contractor, meaning I've got decent credit. I do what I'm supposed to. I haven't screwed over the lumber houses or the plumbing houses or the electrical. Now, if you're talking about a Home Depot or Lowe's, most of those places are going to have a line of credit or a credit card that they're going to allow them to use where they're going to get net 30 terms. So let's say that you've got a newer contractor that is just getting started. Well, that newer contractor needs to go and get a credit card. And that contractor needs to go and buy the materials and then install them and get the work done within 30 days and then get paid. Well, before that, they probably need to get the work done in like 20 days. So there's a few days or a week to get payment, and then they can get paid, and then they can actually pay off their credit card and they sign the lien release. So this concept from general contractors, like I want 50% up and 50% upon completion, results in a lot of theft. You'll see people all the time that put a lot of money up and never hear from the contractor again. It happens more times than I would care to admit because I see it frequently. So the best way to protect yourself is have a reputable contractor. That reputable contractor is going to be willing to put the risk for the supplies in order to get paid for that job. So what do we do? Well, we want to give some money so the contractor can get going. So we typically will give 10%. So if the job's $75,000, once permits are pulled if necessary, then we'll get $7,500, 10% to the contractor to get the job started. So they can buy miscellaneous things, but the next draw will only be done based upon line item of the work that's actually been completed. Now, for the work completed before the project even starts, what happens is a project plan or a scope of work gets put together. That scope of work has a bunch of line items. Let's see, we put 3 twice, okay? And this might be painting the upstairs, or this might be painting the outside, or this might be doing some demolition, and this might be electrical, or whatever the case is. Now, typically general contractors want to put as much as they can. If you've ever seen a general contractor do a bid where they say, whole house, 50,000, that is the absolute worst thing you could possibly get, because that means it's completely ambiguous and nobody knows. And even with the best of intentions from both of you, you're still going to end up in problems of that's not included or that is included. So what you want to do is be very detailed prior to purchasing the property, prior to your earnest money becoming non-refundable. You want to have a detailed scope, line item by line item, precisely what's being done. If we're replacing windows, how many windows? Where are those windows located? Are we replacing the toilet or keeping the toilet? Are we tearing out the shower and putting in tile? Are we putting in a vanity or not putting, like all that stuff has to be decided beforehand and listed out on the scope of work. So then what's going to happen is the contractor then, once it's done, is going to ask for a draw for a specific line item. Now, that line item is either done or not done. There is no in between. So for example, if they have cabinets and countertops all in the same line item, let's say they also have appliances in there. If they ask for a draw because they just have the countertops, or they just have the cabinets but not the countertops or the appliances, the answer is absolutely not. So if they separate it and say countertops are a separate item, then cabinets, which are a separate item, then appliances, which contractors tend to not like to do just because it takes more time to get the bid together. But if that is done, then they can get a draw when those things are completed. Now, it's not when it's in the property. It's not when they've taken it to the property. It has to be permanently affixed to the property, and 100% of the light item has to be done. I use this example quite frequently. If you put in the faucet and the faucet's leaking, I'm not gonna pay you for that faucet until it's not leaking. That's how technical I'm going to be to make sure each line item is done and done appropriately. So you've got to make sure the contractor understands the rules. It's 100% or it's 0, and it has to be permanently affixed to the property. So when this is all said and done, how much money should you pay a general contractor up front? As little as possible is the answer. And if you're asking me, no more than 10% upfront, which we've even given contractors 10% and had them run away with that money too. So that's not even protected. Ideally, I wouldn't even give them that amount of money. That's just been kind of our risk tolerance. You may have some pushback from some general contractors saying, well, I don't want to do that. And how do I know I'll get the money and those things? And the best thing that you can say is, this is really easy. I'm getting a loan through a hard money lender. That hard money lender is taking the rehab money and putting it in a rehab account. I can show you the HUD settlement statements, the closing settlement statements, that actually show the money is there. So the great thing about all this, Mr. Contractor, is you don't have to take my word for the money, because the money's already being held by the lender for these draws, and they can validate, the lender will validate for you that the money's there. And the way that I can validate that is on the settlement statement. It says $90,000 for rehab. It's going to the lender, and the lender's going to be do draws on that. So this should make a contractor even more excited, because the contractor's risk is they go do this stuff, they do it on the property, and you never pay them, okay? So if you're just an average Joe, they're gonna have a big risk with that. But if you show that you're working with a hard money lender and you show the documentation that the money's there, then they know the money's sitting not in your bank account so you can go over to Vegas and spend it all, but it's actually being held in an account by the lender for those things, and then they can do draws out of it. That is an amazing situation for a good general contractor, because they know the money's there. They're not hoping you'll come up with the money later, and that's what makes contractors not want to take the risk with their lines of credit or with their credit cards or with their net terms, is the concern that you actually don't have the money to pay for it. But if you can prove to them that the money is there, ready, and as soon as the work's done, based upon the scope of work, it can get paid out, they're going to be really excited about doing the business, but they've got to understand that.